let's take a look at these examples of using absolute and relative change when comparing two objects. So in this first example, we have that there are 75 QFC supermarkets in the US, and Albertsons has about 215 stores. Want to compare the size of Albertsons in relation to QFC using absolute and relative comparisons. Round to the nearest 1/10 of a percent as necessary. All right, so the formula absolute change equals new value minus original value, and relative change being the absolute change over the original value times 100%. What's different about this application is we're not tracking one value over time. We're tracking two different objects at the same time. So we need to determine what is going to be the new value and what's going to be the original value in this comparison. And what's important is to recognize how the comparison is happening. Compare the size, so we have of Albertsons to QFC. That's typically your comparison. If we look on the right, we have compare associate's degree at Utah State to SLCC. So here we have to. That's probably the best word to see because you'll see it every time in these comparisons. Not the first word of and here at, they're not the same, but the to, what you're comparing to, is pretty much going to be in your comparison wording. So the to, the next thing after the after the to is going to be the original value. Whereas the of, that's going to be the new value. So you have to look through your comparison and determine what you're comparing to. What you're comparing to is called the base value. So in this case, QFC is the base of your comparison. And that takes on the original value in the formula. So for this problem, the absolute change, the new value, how many Albertsons are there? 215 stores. Minus the original value, original is the base value, the QFCs, 75 stores. And when we subtract that, 215 minus 75, $140. And stores minus stores is stores. These are like terms. So what would we say in English? Well, we can tell that there are more Albertsons than QFC, and we're comparing Albertsons to QFC, so we would say 140 more Albertsons stores than, QFC. And we're using the word more because this ended up being a positive number when we did the absolute change. Had the absolute change been a negative number, then we'd say less. All right, now the relative change. We know that we can use the absolute change, which we already have, 140 stores, and divide by the original value, which we've already discussed is the base value. That's how many QFCs there are. This is multiplied by 100%. Now there are rounding instructions, but it says round to the nearest 1/10 of a percent. So the percent, we have to see the percent before we round, or else we'll get this wrong. We'll round in the wrong spot. So work out the entire formula on your calculator and then round. So in this case, 140 divided by 75, and then times 100. Now we're looking at a percent. Approximately 186.6666, etc. And from there, we go to round the nearest tenth. This is the 10th position. We look to the right. The 6 is larger than 4, 5 or more. Raise the score. That 6 will turn into a 7. And we have 186.7% more Albertsons than QFC. Again, we use the word more because this is a positive number. And we're comparing how many Albertsons to how many QFC. Okay. Story problem, story answer. Okay, now go ahead and pause the video and you work out the questions on the right. What you should get for the top one is that there are 1,905 fewer associate's degrees at USU and the percent, this is 58.6% fewer associate's degrees at USU than SLCC. Forgot the comparison. There we go. And for the bottom one, all they've done is switch the comparison. So this is Utah State compared to SLCC, and this is SLCC compared to Utah State. So the first part, 1,905 more associate's degrees at SLCC than USU. But what changes, because the denominator of the relative change is the original value, it's the base value, and here they're switching base values, the percent's quite a bit different. 141.53%. All right. Now on these questions on the right, they didn't give us rounding rules, so you kind of don't know how far to round. I would give at least 1 decimal place, but you can give more. I wouldn't go much less because then you're losing too much information. All right, I hope this helps.